So for now I'm going to remove the cylinder head, which is just this top part, not the barrel, which is underneath the cylinder head. The bit with the spark plug, you could take the spark plug out. In fact, may as well take the spark plug out and have a look at it. It's pretty oily, isn't it? Pretty oily. So we want to undo these 10mm. That's one of the problems. Diagonal pattern. That one's already loose. Find a container to put those head nuts in. So having loosened those diagonally, relatively clean container. That's how I lost one. Oh, there should be 4 washers as well, little split washers. Right. Whoops. Come on. Right. Keep the spark plug in there. The cylinder head should just pull off. We can inspect that. Looks pretty cokey to me. Cokey dokey. Here's the cylinder head gasket. Wouldn't be very old. Now, the way to do this is to slightly bend the studs in. I mean, they're not going to stay bent. I'm not talking about bending them permanently. Just bend them in the direction that they're sticking. Against the direction that they're sticking. There we go. Just right in there. Number 23. Maybe November 23. Actually, it's September 23, which doesn't make sense. Well, there's actually some code writing up here. Alright, that's for another day. It's interesting. Well, if I was to remove the barrel with the carburetor manifold still attached, the oil pump feed tube would want to keep it connected. But what I'm going to do is I'm not actually going to remove the carb. I'm just going to withdraw this which has withdrawn the whole thing, and then we can withdraw the cylinder head. Might be wise to rotate the engine so that the piston is at the lowest stroke. At this point, we can do that with the Kickstart. Okay, it's down there somewhere, so we won't have so far to pull it off the piston. There we go. It's quite a long take, that. It's just the residual petrol coming out the top of the carb. Okay, we can inspect that another time. And we can inspect that another time as well. So I'm going to remove the piston next, and what I've done here is just put kitchen towel in between the base of the crankshaft and the pistons. This is just in case one of the circlips, the gudgeon circlips, falls into the machine. I mean, I'm taking it apart anyway, so I could retrieve it, but it's just, I don't want to have to retrieve it. So if it does slip out my hand, it's not going to drop inside the machine. But we will be splitting these cases later on. So I just want to get small pliers just to remove that circlip. Alright, I wasn't filming it, which wasn't a lot of use, really, but anyway, took it out with a pair of pliers, and it's in there by the spark plug. So what I've got is a small socket that fits in the hole. And these can be notoriously a little bit on the stiff side, which this one is. Actually, I tried putting it in the other side, and come out really quite easily. It came out this far. It came out thus far. There you go. Flew out. Let's have a look how far it went. You're right the way over there, look. Right, so we should just be able to withdraw the piston. And that's just small end bearing there. Probably be prudent to change that, because when they go, it can be rather destructive to the engine. Well, the piston rings are all in one piece. It was a new piston. I mean, don't mind, there's a bit of wear on it, so what, you know it's running. And incidentally, that arrow denotes the direction, the rotation of where you put the piston, you put the piston in the machine. I think this points to the front. I will verify that, but that arrow is important, because where the gaps in the rings are, you don't want that to coincide with the ports in the barrel. But anyway, this isn't how a two-stroke works. Let's get on with it. So let's remove this little small end bearing. I'll just inspect that, because I mean, it might be feasible that was what was rattling around in the motor, but like I say, it usually has to go through the barrel first before it gets to the bottom end, and makes a mess of the barrel and the rings and things. So we've got to remove the kickstart lever, and I didn't like where this actually was. I think it should be a little bit further forward. I think that this straight shaft here should match the Y on the Yamaha. When I say the Y, I mean the stem of the Y. Whereas that's like a number 1. This should be, instead of at 11 o'clock, it should be at 12 o'clock, like that. So it needs to just be a little bit further forward so that this matches that. Anyway, that will be a 10mm. We want to remove this nut. A bit of a special, that one. I think might be lucky here. Didn't expect it to push it back on, to be honest. Oops. Didn't think it'd push it back on. Yeah. Yeah, a bit of a fight, wasn't it? No, I mean, you know, I've had worse fights than that, but just put the special sort of looking bolt that came with it a little way in, so I won't lose that. Did have a little shaft on it. So it might be a bit of a special part, something. Okay, what I'm actually going to do now, I'm actually going to remove the oil pump cover. I've an idea that the oil pump is actually bolted to this part of the engine underneath the pump, so you wouldn't be able to remove this cover unless you undo the oil pump. I only think that, however, I'm just going to remove this front cover to have a look. Aha. Ah, I see. Anyway, so screws holding the oil pump in. There's one there. There's one there. I think we may as well have to remove that. And we'll have to unhook this and unhook that one. I might need some hot water to do that. Alright, today's tool is famous forceps from a fish and tackle shop years and years and years ago. That's boiling water, so I've got to look what I'm doing. I'll probably burn myself. Just holding it on there. It's quite a cool day. That pipe will never come off unless it's really soft. Still not coming off. Oh, that's hot. Probably could have got away with using different pliers. Here we go. Yeah, that was quite a struggle. Quite a lot of damage on the pipe as well. That was that one. A number of little things to go over. Right. I don't think I've got to remove the pump. Anyway, let's do that far pipe. The small one, the output pipe. Let's get some hot water on that, hot rag on it rather than water. That's enough. There we go. That's off. There's some residual oil in the pipe. No need to be expected. Yeah. So on second thoughts, I may as well just undo those two screws, see if we can get it off. Here we are, 4mm hex. I've loosened the other one. I'm withdrawing the other. There he is. There. So I might have wanted to take this off, then remove the pipes. I removed the pipes in situ because I guess it'd be floating about a bit. Right, don't seem to have done anything. There's one. And two. Oops. Well. Ah. Remember now, there's this little guy here, which goes on there. Oops, it goes on that shaft. It's the world's smallest, most easily lost washer, because if you don't take it off now, if you pick the engine up and move it, it drops off. So that has to be kept. You don't want to lose it down the well of the pump. So I have to put that in a safe place. So what I've got here is a piece of paper, and I'm going to basically make a template, simply because some of these are different lengths, and it's just good practice to use the same screw in the same hole. Otherwise you might get muddled up and you could be there wasting your time. So it's just because some of these hex heads are different lengths. So now I've got my template. It's a little bit small actually, but here's the crank, here's the kick, here's the oil fill, and that says Yamaha, same as that. So what I'm going to do is slacken these off in a diagonal pattern and then start removing them. But I've got to just slacken them off first. Five millimeter. Okay. And I'm going to just slacken them off. At this point it was easier just to put it on a blanket and turn it up this way. So for example, they're all slackened off now. So this is going to correspond to here on the diagram. I'll punch a hole in there and just put the nut in there. Great, just made a hole in it, put the corresponding screw bolt in there. as they're all slack, they don't have to be removed diagonally, they have to be loosened diagonally. You can remove them anyway. So there's 4 along the bottom here. And that one's going to correspond right there. Okay, finally, let's go and have a look at the template. This one's got a circle on it, and that denotes the fact that it's got this oil pump clip on it. Oil pump tube clip, which is sometimes find that's missing, but I'm going to take that off. Keep it with the bolt. Yeah, so what I'm going to do now is remove this cover. It's going to be a little bit stiff because there's a seal here. It's always going to be a bit stiff there. And oh, hang on, it's just come up. Okay, it's on its way. So it's removed quite easily. If you're careful, you can certainly reuse this gasket because it's a very thick gasket. Now, right straight off the bat, we've got some shims, and I think these need a clean, but they come from there, off of the Kickstart. So what I want to do is just quickly put this cover back on, just to stop anything going in there. So I'll put that in a safe place, and where nothing's going to happen to it, and I can give it clean enough. So next we want to undo these 4 clutch plate covers. We'll do it here, here, here and here, like so. And we won't remove them, just right. We need to clamp that. Okay, so what we want to do is loosen this one, this one, this one, then this one. And in order to do that, I've used a large screwdriver through the con rod with some padding and 2 pieces of wood. And the torque that these are done up shouldn't prove to be too much of a strain on that. Crikey. Okay, so that's that. Now before I take all these off, I'm actually going to put the motor up on its face again. The reason I've got it this way up is just so that the clutch plates don't all fall out on the floor, because I want to keep them in order, in the order that they're in there. Because I'm happy with the clutch, and if you upset the order, it might mean that you're going to be wasting your time putting it back in the correct order. 1, 2, you know, if stuff weren't working properly, you could measure all these components up and find defective ones, but as it was all working, I'm quite happy with it. There's intolerance. Yeah, so hopefully I can take the top plate, friction and pressure plates off in one. It's alright, there's only a few of them, but I mean, it does save you a little bit of work. Okay, well now for a fluke. The ball bearing came out. If it didn't come out, you could magnetise that, as it is already magnetised. There is another piece of push rod in there, but I'm going to leave that in there. So next we have to remove this nut here, this clutch basket, and we need a special tool or some way of holding that. And what I did was bought this special tool off eBay, which was quite expensive, but as I've used it 4 times, this will be the 4th time I've used it, it sort of gets cheaper every time you use it. And there was, you know, there was an idea that I might get another dt50 engine, so that would come in useful again. Anyway, so what happens is it's designed to line up, and you just hold it like a big spanner. So that will be one aspect of removing it, and the other one is this 19mm socket, which I'll have with a breaker bar and an extension. Okay, you know me, I mark stuff to show me which way it goes up. I like to put stuff the same as it came out. You can already see where I took it apart last time. Whoops. Okay, on the back of that I think is another thrust washer, sort of stuck there with a film of oil. Last but not least, there we go. Alright, next is the Kickstart assembly, and this sometimes strikes fear into the heart of anyone, and it's not that bad actually. What right here is a loop, it's the end of the spring, and it fits into its own little part of the, let's just move this gasket out of the way. It fits into a recess in the body, the casting of the engine side, and it's that square, that's a recess for that, and that's all there is to that. When you put it back, that goes in there, and then you need a pair of pliers to remove it. So this pair of little electrical pliers, general purpose pliers actually, should be sufficient. It's not as brutal as it looks. Put that in a safe place. So next we want to remove this primary pinion, and it's held on with this 19mm socket, 19mm nut. So I've got a 19mm socket, and this is where you'll have to have some contrivance to stop the crankshaft rotating. So I've got a steel bar in the form of a screwdriver with lots of padding so it doesn't score it, and it fits snugly in there, and these pieces of hardwood to support the rest of it. And I'm going to put this motor, I'm going to rotate it round. Let's have a look, do that. Okay, going to need an extension on the breaker bar for this. Just rotating that crank a bit. There we go. It's in position now. That's the pinion retaining nut, that's the pinion, and there's the woodruff. Alright, at this stage we want to flip the motor back sunny side up, like that. We want to remove this circlip. Let's get a pointer. This circlip right here. I've got these, which I got off eBay quite a while ago. I've repaired them a couple of times now. Got them in the mode, the function where if you squeeze them in, it pushes them out. And if you flip it over, you have, just let go over and have a look at these other bits and pieces. You get a little kit with it. And some of them, when you push them together, they go in the opposite way. They go in out. And sometimes they go in. They start off out, and then when you bring this together they go in. But anyways, we don't need to really get into the nitty gritty of this tool, but I just got it on eBay. Let's see what happens here. Easy peasy. Oh, I just had to go over those pins with a diamond thing. Anyway, so we remove that circlip. Now then, there's a little washer. Right there's a little washer. Okay. Okay, now that's seated. I'm beginning to look for things that might have caused that noise. So for now I've left that little circlip there. What I'm going to do is turn this engine round, motor over. 6mm Allens. Now it would be a good idea to make another template at this point, like I did for the other side, because it could save you some time putting them back together, because these are different lengths. For example, that one there don't fit properly. I'll just put that one in a hurry. So the short one goes there. Find the short one. So next what we want to do is remove this E-clip. This E-clip for the gear selector shaft just pushed off, which is what I want to do. Here's the other push rod. I'm not going to withdraw that out. Could you push it through? We'll just leave it there for now. Could just push it through actually. I don't want to destroy the seal. There you go, push through. So now we can turn this motor back over and withdraw this shaft from the other side. Actually, that's after we remove this thrust washer. Now, actually, there seems to be quite a lot of oil there around that gear selector shaft. We might need a new seal there. It won't drip in out or anything. Okay, this used to terrify me, this bit. This is the actuator arm. This is known as the change drum. And we have to basically take this off. So we've got another E-clip to take off. This did used to terrify me, this bit. There we go. E-clip. You've disconnected selector actuator arm from the drum. Should just pull off. Now there's a spacer there, so doesn't want to pull off, does it? Perhaps I've got to undo that screw. I don't think so. There we go. Still connected there, perhaps. That's why they used to terrify me. It's a spring clip there. It's like, what happens if you mess this up? You just have to make a note of how it was. pulled that off, didn't we? Here's the spacer. Don't want to lose that a little bit. I think I've got to remove it, but if we're drawing the shaft. No, we don't have to, of course we don't. There we are. So if you do want to change your shaft, that's what you have to do. It's good if you can find a shaft with decent splines. Okay, so now we've got to turn this engine round again, this motor. Oh, it's enough to it's cold, you know. Well, I don't know how cold it is, we'll find out later. You need a 19mm socket and an extension lever and some way of stopping the crankshaft rotating, because it's time to remove the Magneto nut. So the other disappointing aspect about taking apart a sort of motor like this one is you really need a special tool here to take the Magneto off. And what's so special about this is a left-hand thread, fine thread there. And what it does is screws into the thread of the actual Magneto, and then the centre of it, now being a left-hand thread, it tightens up, like you have to pretend you're undoing it to actually get it going. And it's a very fine thread, probably very easy to cross. Right, we have to hold that and tighten that. Looks like it's M27, so it'll be a left-hand thread M27. I'll get the details on it later. Right, so to remove it would be like doing it up. This is the left-hand thread. Okay, just a little thrust washer. And there's a woodruff key in there, don't you can see it. The woodruff key, you get a better shot on that. Yeah, so there's that woodruff key I'm talking about. They can be a bit of a pig to get out, but this one's just come out pretty easily. Another very easy piece to lose. Now, put that in there on the magnet. No. So as you would have seen there, PZ2 to undo the neutral light switch, and I don't actually remember putting these Allen hex heads per stator screws. And I've got a couple of them there to take out. So move the motor onto a bench and remove that second push rod. So we've got it faced up, we've put it up some clearance on some wood here. We're going to need a template. There's loads of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Looks like 9. 10. Don't think we've got to worry about that. And removing the D10. I think that comes later. That's not a real worry. So I've gone and slackened off this one. This one. There's one down there. This one. This one. This one. This one. That one. That one. And that one. So I haven't really counted them, but I am going to draw a template. Now I've got to mind when I draw a template because the motor's upside down at the moment. So I'll have to make sure I get the rotation right. So I've got another rather tiny diagram. And I've got my trusty 5mm. I've slackened all of these are slackened off, so I'm not going to be trying to distort the case by removing screw bolts in the wrong order. They're all slackened off. I'm going to count them through, but this is already quite a long video, so I'm not going to film me removing every single one. So for example, this one, I'm just going to have a look at it, because I know I put thread lock on these, which hasn't actually stopped them undoing quite easily. They are of course screw bolts. Got it on the brain. You know, Allen heads, hex heads, Allens. Yeah, there's the residue of the thread locker. Okay, so that one corresponds to about here. Okay, so I've been going round, started here, then I went over here, then here, here. Didn't really matter about the order. So at the moment, template looks like that, which means I've got, let's go back over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more, which will go somewhere in there. Well, it looks to be all done. All the screw bolts removed and sitting there in that template. So I'm probably going to take the motor off these pieces of wood now and just see if it's going to come apart without me having to use the split at all. Yeah, she definitely started to come apart. You know, just pulling it apart at the top there to start with. Dear oh dear, look at all this. Not guilty. Could buff that out, I suppose. Okay, we have separation. Gearbox cluster closest to the bench, so this came off top first, which is the other side. Now, that's not a problem bearing. Okay, that'll be fun. Well, you know, I mean, I knew they, whoops, you know, I knew they weren't going to look bad because they're virtually nude. They're just a bit noisy and stuff. I haven't found anything, you know, to sort of say that was definitely floating around in the gearbox. Bit dirty, I suppose. Yeah. Well, it was definitely the bearings that were sounding a bit noisy. Now, just thinking I really should have put the name up, you know. Right, so here's a main end bearing, and the subject of the next video is going to be taking this out and changing it for new ones, but I've got to go and get new bearings now, and I'll show you how I got the crank shaft clear of the other bearing. In the other video, in the next video, but this video is long enough. Right, I don't know. I think I might have slightly discovered the problem. Oh yeah. I think that is the problem, you know. It does sound a bit loud, doesn't it? Okay. Well, anyway, see you in the next video, and hope you enjoyed thus far. You know, it's not really a cliff edge. I mean, but you know, if you've sat through this, you can. No, I'm not going to do that. This is as far as we wanted to go with this video. So, like, next video is going to be the more interesting, sorting it all out business. So we think this is. I think I just used cheap bearings. Oh, you know, it was running and everything, so it's just running. It sounded like there's something going wrong with it. Oh well. Right, I have to sort it out.